they're on there as a filling site. When I put this up, my position, I'll put one leg behind the tree. I need to move over just a little bit. And I put that line under the target. And you see how far in steel is set up. At this go of the handlebar, I'm up 30 degrees off center. So straight up and down to 0, just 30 degrees. I get behind my line, I cut down until I get to about this position. I turn this off, turn on this side, and I take out a 70-degree pie. Because look at this, if you have a hinge that's this thick and it starts to fall, where's it break from first, the back or the front? The back. What if it's this thick, where's it break from, the back or the front? Back. The back. So if you have an inch over here and 3/8 over there and it starts to fall, where does it break from first, the thick side or the thin side?
The thin side.
No, the thick side, because it's like a board there. So how can you hold more on this side? That side can't turn unless you take something off over there to allow the tree to twist this way. And so it's hard to calculate. Guys think they're good at it, and they are. They can pretty much stay there with the tree, but a few trees later, now somebody gets hit by something. This is a very dense wood, and you see I'm coming down an angle, so I'm on in-grain fiber. That's the reason why it's putting out small dust. When I turn it over, you'll see bigger chips. But if you want to look, if you're out there, you can see straight down the line. I'm pretty straight, so hopefully that stays that way. Now I take the saw, I turn it in this location, and look into that top's cut to make that come out. Now the pie that I've taken out on this one's probably is more than 70. Probably that hopefully will allow this tree to go all the way down past these other two trees out there. Think about if I had a 45 in it, and a straight tree, I wouldn't even get to these limbs, and what would happen? Face notch closes, and the hinge is going to be broken. But if I can get it to go past that, it maintains my control, and I don't have to worry so much about butt rebound and those kind of things. Because if I take it past that 70 degree, I don't have butt rebound. And I've got 12, 13, 14, so I'm a little bit shy. I could go a little bit deeper, but I don't have a lot of side weights. So I'm going to bore in on this side, go in about 6 inches, cut out the back, then go the other side, bore in, set up my 2-inch hinge. I'm going to cut back, leave about 2 inches on the back, then we'll talk about wedge, and then go from there to release the tree. So if I use a bore cut, remember the reactive forces, push, pull, kick. This is my starting point. When you use a bore cut, you got to start in that lower corner. If not, up here it's going to kick you. So when you're going in sideways, you start on the bottom side. If you're bucking up a log, you start on the bottom side. Set up my 2-inch hinge. I can cut back. It gives me a spot for a wedge. If I need, here on this one, I've got forward lean. If I wanted to, if I had weight on that side, I could actually place a wedge in here that would support the hinge. If I was going to put a rope in this tree, out front does nothing. I'd run the rope out here. But you still have to think through, is that once the tree moves, the rope is slack. There's not a whole lot that a rope does on a tree with forward lean. got a very slow growth tree, it's very easy to get your hinge to do what you want it to. If it's fast growth, sometimes it kind of splits off. This one you see broke from the back to the front. There's been hundreds, if not thousands, of chainsaw operators over the years in logwoods that lost their life because they didn't understand a notch and a hinge. In other words, they were given the task of putting a tree on the ground. Like one guy told me, or several of them, I don't get paid to maybe go this way or that way, I just get paid to put them on the ground, you know? And so they rush through and drop them. But a lot of times the boss is right on their tail saying, you know, you can't leave that wood on there because it's going to pull fiber on my tree. And it drops my value. And so if I'm going to pay you, you can't do that. So what do? They stay there with the tree while it's moving. If you watch a lot of times on YouTube, the guys are stating, oh, I'm gonna take a little bit more off over here. I want that tree to jack over this way. I want to do this, that, and other. It's a bunch of bull. Look at where the tree goes. It goes back to the face notch. It's gonna go, if I take a side of the hinge off, the tree will turn, right? But how much do you take off? How much do you add on this side to pull the tree? Like if I wanted to pull this tree over, say 3 feet more to the left, how much more would I hold over here or take off over here to do it? It's a guess, isn't it? Nobody can tell you. So they stay there with it thinking they're steering the tree from the back of the hinge, and they're actually not. If you look at them, when the tree goes down, it'll be right to the front line of the hinge 99% of the time, if they have a hinge across it. It can roll out if they don't. The other thing is that what causes the fiber to pull that the boss didn't like was that they didn't have a face notch open enough. You see, if you don't have a face notch open enough, then basically the hinge can't work into it. So what does it do? The face notch closes. If I had a 30 or 45 degree, the tree would be right here. It's going to pull fibers on the stump like this. And you don't want that. You want it to break from the back to the front. Yeah, you know, I talk to a lot of guys with cities and towns, and they say, well, you know, we probably need to have a little refresher. We had a little incident the other day, you know, and so I'd like to talk to you about some training. And so I talked to him about it, and I asked him what the incident is. Well, you know, we thought we had a good plan, but it kind of limb went and hit the fence over there and messed it up. So I thought we'd just do a little refresher and talk about some things. I said, that's great. Well, what was your plan on it? Well, what do you mean? Well, how much hinge did you going to leave? What was your side lean? What was your forward or back lean? I don't know. They had a plan. They had a plan. But nobody got hurt, so we just went ahead and cleaned it up. Went on and had 2 or 3 more to do. How can you get better at something if you don't, first of all, plan? You come back and reevaluate it to see what worked and what didn't. You see, if it goes right, you can brag like crazy, can't you? But if it goes wrong, you come back and you learn. You say, I'm not going to do it that way again because that didn't work. No matter what we're doing on a task, if we don't come back and reevaluate, we can never get better at it. Just that simple. Just that simple. So if you see here, how much hinge did I want?
2 inches.
2 inches? Mm-hmm. I can probably cut it off here to check, but I'm going to say we're doggone close to 2 inches all the way across. And it broke from the back to the front, so that hinge worked good. How about on target?
Yeah.
How'd the length go? Did you look at it?
You was off by at least 3 inches.
Huh?
You were off by at least 3
Is
inches.
it too long or too short?
Just hit that on. Right where those sticks were.
You think it's pretty close? Anyway, now it's still attached here. And if I had this in a wind thrown situation, I would do exactly the same thing. I'd go as close as I could to the root ball. I would put a face notch in the bottom, back cut it, allow that root to go back, or the stump to go back to its hole. And now I'd sever that off. And so some guys shared me years ago on working storm stuff. And you know, in logging training, we always went out this way. We take the limbs off as we go, come to whatever top we wanted on it, bucket off at that point. Well, with storm stuff, it's the same process. But most of the time, guys want to go to that end and start working back because your main objective is to open the road, right? But when you really think about it, a lot of trees not like this low down. They're high limbs, and you come in from that direction, you got stuff over you and around you. A couple of things the guys shared with me. Number one is one person on the tree with a chainsaw until it's stabilized. That means I might cut this off here, I might go up here and cut it off, and then I'm gonna work up the big stuff, and then the other person could be working on that end. As long as it's detached, we're separated, right? But if I start working here and somebody's in the top, I cut off way here, it could roll, and I end up with somebody under a limb or something out there. So one person on the tree with a chainsaw until it's stable. You've got your planned out who's gonna work in what area. Second thing is work from the butt end whenever possible. And that sounds kind of counterintuitive for most times because people say, well, our objective is to open the road. But I found that working from this end up, I can work much faster In many cases, I can pull the top back out of the road quicker. And the other thing is that I don't necessarily go all the way back to the roots. I might start at the edge of the road, and if I got a clearance there to cut, I cut it there, and then I work that direction. And so, you know, this one here, they might handle with a big piece of equipment or whatever, but I'm going to open the road first. So I'm going to still work to the top, though, because I find it to be much faster. And I tell you, I've stopped watch guys in that situation many, many times, and it's generally always faster than going the other way. Because you go the other way, you got to cut something and move it out of the way, get somebody to pull it over and all this kind of stuff. It's constant cut, cut, drag, drag. This way, you can drop all that stuff out, and you got a couple of people pulling, you pull it back out of the road very quickly. Third thing is, don't pass any limbs. You know, I'd say, well, I got a limb here holding it up off the sand. I don't want to get in the dirt, so I'm going to leave that limb. But inevitably what happens is if it's 3 feet high there and something rolls, it can move over 3 feet and end up on my ankle or whatever. So I don't want to leave any limbs. I take them all off. I want to keep it up off the dirt. I'll take a piece of wood and slide under it. You know, that's all you need. Just a limb that broke like that, drop it underneath, and it keeps it up out of the sand. And so that's kind of the process. And then wherever I cut, the plan is on a horizontal tree. First of all, any overhead hazards. And you saw that limb hung around there a long time. If it didn't fall, that could be called a widowmaker, couldn't it? So, but that all cleaned up. I don't see anything else that's over my head. Wind's not blowing anything. And so the next thing is I start to look at wherever I choose to cut. You think it's going to roll to the right or the left?
To the left.
Probably going to go down with that way, the limb to the left, isn't it? And then I start to think about, if I cut right here, is it going to come up or go down? If it's still up on the stump,
Down.
that's solid. That's solid down there. It's going to go down, isn't it? So my compression is on top. Then the other thing is that could be back pressure. As long as that's attached, it probably is. I'm going to detach that because I really want that unstable. You know, people say, "Oh, what do you mean?" Well, I don't know that that's going to stay there. I mean, I can plan for unstable, but I can't plan for stable that's unstable. So the first thing I do is take all that off. It can sit up there, it can fall down either way it wants to go, but then I can plan around the rest of the cuts. Right now, I could leave that attached, think it's going to hold, get down here, and it could lift on me a little bit, or because the face notch is closed, or either I get down there and it rolls off, and now I've messed up my plan.
So we're moving as what will your next move be?
Yeah. So I want to disconnect that, and then we'll try to cut here. I'll tell you what I want to do.
Would you do a body
Have you ever
cut?
seen log levitation? Huh? I showed you that before? Taking a wedge and levitating the log? You can lift it right up off the asphalt or off of the gravel. You ever seen that? I'm gonna disconnect that if it stays up. If not, then we'll still do it. Let's see if we can lift that log up off of the earth.
Where? Top of the tree?
Hmm?
Top of the tree?
No, right here.
At the joint?
We jack it up off the ground. You ever never seen that? You know how you get a big one across the road? You know, you got asphalt under it. You don't want to hit the asphalt. So how do you get under it?
You gotta start rolling like you do the magic.
See, what you do is you hum. You know, it's levitation. You go like that, and it starts to. So first thing, you know, I started to think about I'm gonna cut that hinge off, and this one I probably could because it's real tight grain. But a lot of times when you start cutting this off, this is trying to stand back up and it grabs your saw chain. So what I do is, you know, especially on a little bit smaller one, how long should it take you to cut through a 20-inch piece of wood?
20 seconds.
20 seconds. So I just recut the doggone thing. It takes a lot less time. And I'll stand on that side so that if this thing rolls, they can't get me. And so then that reduces the chances. I could even take a notch or something if I thought it was going to roll down the hill, place that so it kind of chalks it up. See what it does, that hinge material then straightens back up there. And I got a little bit left of it. So that thing is sitting up on its ledge right there. So my hinge, if I straighten that back up, almost exactly 2 inches. Sometimes I get lucky. But you see, if I come here and try to cut it from the back, this is trying to straighten up, this is trying to go down, and it grabs your chain every time. You get stuck, and sometimes even the wood, you know, the weight here will get stuck on it. And this is a pretty nice log. So I think what I'm going to do, I'll show you that log levitation. I'm going to go down, and this is going to be tricky because that's a lot of weight. But I'm going to start it on the top. We'll place a wedge, maybe 2 wedges, and see if we can jack that up. Now be careful, can't get cold. Right here, take it right out. So I offset there. It's actually all separated. And I don't know what log length they'd want, but we need to try to push that off of it anyway. But I'll show you on this one. We'll come right here and I'll see if I can get it to jack up. Watch what it does now when I drive this in. What's it doing? Huh?
Coming up.
Is it lifted?
Yeah.
Log levitation. Y'all didn't even hum. It would have been a lot easier if y'all had hum. You know it? So now, when I cut through this, it separates at the bottom. So it pushes it right apart. I don't have to worry about getting in the dirt. Another thing I can use is what we call offsets or mismatched cuts, some people call it. And that I can do horizontally or vertically. So I'm going to do an offset there. My compression is where on that one? Top or bottom?
Top.
It's up in the air, so it's on the bottom. Undercut, offset over about an inch, cut down until I bypass it. Once those two cuts are bypassed, it snaps like firewood in between the two. I could use a slide on the bottom and overcut, but no reason to. It can't move very much. Bore cut through the middle, offset and offset, and it gives me a tongue and a groove joint. So it can't twist until the machine pops it apart. Works pretty slick. Like you're on a ditch bank or something. You can see how the cut goes through the middle, offset and offset. Those just snap apart. Usually snap those by hand. But I can go down through here. I don't have to worry about getting stuck. I can make the cuts. Machine touches it, all falls apart.